Hi everybody! Today we're going to talk about the reflexive pronouns, and if you haven't seen the German with Puppets episode that goes with this, go ahead and click up there in the box with the puppets. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, you already know what personal pronouns are, things like I, you, he, she, it. It could also be us or them or some of those other cases for ich, du, er, sie, es, wir, ihr, sie, or it could be mich, dich, ihn, sie, es, uns, euch, sie for the accusative case, or mir, dir, ihm, ihr, ihm, uns, euch, ihnen for the dative case. Now we're going to talk about something that's a little bit different. These are reflexive pronouns, and reflexives are different because they have to be used with certain verbs. And reflexives are called reflexives because they reflect upon the personal pronoun that is the subject of the sentence. Now, none of this would really make a whole lot of sense until we get into some examples, but before we get into that, we do have to talk about the accusative and the dative reflexive pronouns. There are only two differences between the two, but let's start with the accusative ones. We start off here with ich. If ich is the subject of the sentence, we have to have mich as the accusative form for the reflexive pronoun. If du is the subject, dich has to be the reflexive. Those aren't different than what we had before. As you'll notice, we have er, sie, and es clumped back together again like we did in the conjugation charts, as opposed to the way we had them with the personal pronouns in the accusative and dative cases, because those three change separately. Now, er, sie, and es all take sich. Wir changes to uns, which is the same as the accusative and the dative personal pronoun. Ihr changes to euch. That one's also the same as the personal pronouns. And sie takes the same one that we had for er, sie, and es, sich. If you are using the capital Z, you will need to capitalize sich as well. In the dative case, the only two that change is mich and dich. Mich changes to mir, as it did in the dative case for the personal pronouns. Dich changes to dir, same as it was for the personal pronouns. Sich stays the same, as does uns, euch, and the other two sichs. Now that we know what the pronouns look like, now we can try and figure out how to use them with various verbs. In section 2 here, we have various verbs and sentences where we're supposed to fill in with the correct reflexive pronoun. So we'll start off with this first one here. Das Mädchen freut. The girl is looking forward to. Auf das Wochenende tells us what she's looking forward to the weekend, auf das Wochenende. Now we want to find out what's the subject of the sentence. Das Mädchen is our subject. She's the one who is looking forward to something. Freuen, or sich freuen auf is the way that you'll find it in the dictionary. The reason we have sich here is that we know we have to have a reflexive to go with it. The girl is looking herself forward to the weekend. In English we wouldn't phrase it like this, but in German we still have to have sich. Das Mädchen freut sich auf das Wochenende. The girl is looking forward to the weekend. Die Männer rasieren. The men are shaving. Die Männer are the ones shaving. What is being shaven in this sentence is the direct object, and the direct object in this sentence is also a reflexive. This one happens to be plural, but it takes the same one as we had before, sich. Freust du? Are you looking forward? This is the same example as we had for number 1, but this time we have du as our subject. So now we have to use the du form of the reflexive as well. Since we don't have an object back here at the end of the sentence, we just have a prepositional phrase, we have to still use the accusative form here, dich. Freust du dich auf das Fußballspiel? Are you looking forward to the soccer game? Hans beeilt something, den Bus zu erreichen. Hans beeilt is the form that goes with Hans. Hans is the subject here. The one being hurried here is Hans. He's also the subject and the direct object in this sentence, so they reflect upon each other. So we have Hans as the subject and sich as the reflexive. Hans beeilt sich, den Bus zu erreichen. Hans is hurrying himself in order to catch the bus. Ich dusche. I am showering. Obviously you're showering yourself, so you're saying ich dusche mich. I am showering myself. Now this next one's where we get a little bit more complicated. Here we have ich sehe, I see. What is being seen is ein paar YouTube videos. These things here are the direct object, the YouTube videos. So now our other object in this sentence, the one that's in the blank space here, is our indirect object. So this one should be ich sehe mir. Dative case, ein paar YouTube videos an. I am looking myself at a few YouTube videos. This one isn't something that we would say in English, but it does happen in German. Nummer 7. Ich wasche something die Hände. Ich wasche is I am washing. What's being washed is the direct object, die Hände, the hands. Whose hands they are, to whom they belong, is me. And in this case, we have to use I am washing me the hands, as opposed to washing someone else's hands. So we have here the dative, mir. It sounds a little funny to English speakers, but it is the way that you do it in the German. You can technically say, ich wasche meine Hände, and it'd be perfectly correct. But normally, in German textbooks, you're going to only find this version with the reflexive, because that's the standard version. It can be said, however, with the possessive. Julia duscht. Julia is showering herself and therefore sich. Kämmst du? Are you combing? Something, die Haare. And the same example that we had before with waschen, here we have die Haare as our direct object, so our indirect object is then our reflexive. Kämmst du dir die Haare? Are you washing your hair? Putzt ihr something, die Zähne? Ihr is our subject here, and so our reflexive has to be euch. It happens to be the dative form of euch, even though that's the same as the accusative, because die Zähne is the direct object. That's the thing that's being cleaned. It happens to be your teeth, and therefore we say euch. Putzt ihr euch oft die Zähne? Do you brush your teeth often? Wir setzen something hin. We are sitting ourselves down. Wir setzen uns hin. We are setting ourselves down. Uns is reflexive because wir is the one being set down. You can also use setzen for other objects. So for instance, ich setze die Tasche auf den Tisch. I am setting the bag on the table. That's accusative, and it has to be used with one of those two-way prepositions which we'll get at the end of the year. But setzen can also be reflexive whenever it's used with the prefix hin. Hinsetzen, it could be sich hinsetzen in the dictionary as the reflexive. Wir treffen something in der Schule. We are meeting ourselves in the school. Wir treffen uns in der Schule. We are meeting ourselves in the school. If you're meeting other people, it's not necessarily a reflexive anymore. But in this sentence, it is reflexive because it's we are meeting ourselves. So the group that we are currently in is meeting again later on. I could say, ich treffe meinen Bruder. I am meeting my brother, as opposed to us. Now in section 3, we're supposed to put together our own sentences, and this is usually where people start to trip up. So the first one here is a period at the end of it, which means that we have to have a statement. For simplicity's sake, let's start with our subject, ich. Then we have to conjugate our verb, beeilen, to go with ich. Be is a non-separable prefix, so we keep that on there. Ich beeile. Then we have to have our reflexive close to the verb here. So we have it right after the verb in this position, mich. I am hurrying myself, schnell. Quickly. Ich beeile mich schnell. Nummer 2. Here we have a question, so we have to start with our verb, which is duschen. Duschen, to go with du, is duscht. Then we have to have our subject, du. After that, we have our reflexive, which in this case is dich. Then we have our time element, which in this case we have 2 of them, mornings or evenings, morgens oder abends. Do you shower in the morning or in the evening? Duscht du dich morgens oder abends? The next one we were back to having a statement, so we start with our subject here, der Schüler, the student. Now we have to have a conjugated form of freuen, which is freut. Then the reflexive pronoun, sich, followed by our prepositional phrase, auf die Hausaufgaben. The student is looking forward to the homework. Der Schüler freut sich auf die Hausaufgaben. The next one is a command, and this one trips a lot of people up because you don't realize what it is that you need to reflect if you don't have the subject in the sentence. Our subject here is ihr, which is one of those that drops out of the sentence in a command. So here we have setzt. Normally we would have ihr directly after that if we were going to ask a question of, are you sitting yourself down? But instead we take out the subject and just say setzt. Then we have to have our reflexive, euch. Now we can do this one of 2 ways. Bitte, hin, or we can say hin, comma, bitte. I like it this way, so we'll just leave it. This next one is back to being a question. Since we have the word warum here, we have to start with our question word, warum. Then we have our verb, which is kämmen, which, to conjugate to go with wir, is still kämmen. Warum kämmen wir? Then our indirect object, uns, followed by our direct object, die Haare, and then the way in which it is being done, together, zusammen. Why are we combing our hair together? Warum kämmen wir uns die Haare zusammen? The next one is back to being a statement, so we start our sentence with the subject, which is die Kinder, the children, After that, we have to have our verb conjugated to go with the plural form die Kinder, which is putzen. After that, we have a reflexive, which is the plural form, which is sich. Then we have die Zähne. Die Zähne is our direct object here, which means that sich is actually the dative form. And then the time, abends, when it's happening. The children are brushing their teeth in the evening. Die Kinder putzen sich die Zähne abends. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out some of those other videos that are on the links there. And, of course, let me know if you thought this was helpful in the comments below or if you want some extra help. Thank you very much. Have a good day.